Welcome to the All Four Downs podcast. I'm Obi-Wan, and we're getting set for the college football week 5. And already 1 month into the game, and there's plenty of games to talk about. A lot of news, a lot of developments. We're going to cover it all here on this show. And did you know Army and Navy is the biggest topic in my episode? And I will start off with, did you know that their first game in history was November 29th, 1890? That is nearly 134 years of having a rivalry between Army and Navy. And they're scheduled to go heads up once again in December. And I can't wait, man, because both these teams are hot. And their offense has, I'll tell you this, it has transformed from those teams that only thing they do is concentrate on running the ball constantly. They're airing it out. And it's ridiculous how they're actually on top of the American Athletic Conference. But more about them later on. This show is also, we're celebrating the VFW, especially in New Britain, Connecticut, the VFW 511 for 125 years of supporting the veterans and their families. And if you miss and you want to catch up with this show and amongst other podcasts from Clovercrest Media, you can visit cmgsportscentral.com. We're getting ready for First Down. Trying to get there. Yeah, I really am. All right, let's talk about the poaching lawsuits that the Pac-12 has issued to the courts against the Mountain West Conference. Now, it has been lately for the past week and a half or so that more members are now attached to the Pac-12. Starting in the 2025-26 season, Utah State, which accepted the invitation on Monday morning to the Pac-12. And there's rumors that UNLV may be the next to join to become the 8th member of the Pac-12. And to be an official conference, you need 8 schools to represent the conference. With that, you have Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, and San Diego State. And remember that the original 2 that were left because of the fallout of the Pac-12 is Oregon State and Washington State. Now, here's the deal. The poaching lawsuit comes to this, is that the Mountain West Conference are trying to protect themselves so much. There is a penalty for schools to leave the conference. And it's about an average of $17 million to $20 million to give to the Mountain West Conference. Now, with all these schools leaving to the Pac-12, now they're taking shots at the Pac-12, saying that they owe them money, approximately a little over $10 million. So with just 4 teams originally, they're supposed to pay back $43 million. And it's insane. So now, instead of helping each other, now they're going to go against each other. And remind you that the Mountain West went ahead and gave a hand to Oregon State and Washington State so that they can fulfill their 12 games in their schedule to go against the Mountain West Conference. All of a sudden now, people are jumping ship. It's going to be an ugly mess. And yet, a lot is to blame, because if the Pac-12 were squared away from the beginning, they wouldn't be able to lose Washington, Oregon, UCLA, USC, and so on and so forth. Other news, there were rumors that Memphis, Tulane, South Florida, and UTSA were going over and crossing over to the Pac-12. That is not the case, because it's official that they will remain with the American Athletic Conference. The Oklahoma Sooners, Oklahoma State. Yes, head coach Brent Venables named Michael Hawkins Jr. to be the starting quarterback, replacing Jackson Arnold, who was replacing the transfer of Daniel Gabriel that went to Oregon. Now, on top of Oklahoma Sooners and Oklahoma State, they both lost. Those schools lost this weekend. Not a great start. And Hugh Freeze, the head coach of Auburn, is not certain who will be starting quarterback, whether it's Peyton Thorne or Hank Brown. Well, he better hurry up and make a decision because he will be frozen. That's right. Hugh Freeze is going to be frozen from entering Auburn because he soon will get the pink slip if he doesn't turn the season around for Auburn. Games, exciting games that happened over the weekend. We'll start with the Friday game with Illinois versus Nebraska. That game went to overtime, and man, that was an awesome game. Okay, but Illinois came out victorious. They're 4-0 for the first time since 2011, and everybody's celebrating. Yay! Yay! Good job, Illinois. But did you know that in 2011, when they started 4-0, they lost the rest of the games? Okay, what's there to celebrate? You went 4-0. Congratulations. Can you make it 5 in a row? Can you make it 6 in a row? Can you compete against Ohio State? Can you compete against Michigan, Oregon, USC? And on the other note, people were applauding Nebraska starting 3-0. First game for the Big Ten, and they got the L. Just saying. Tennessee and Oklahoma. Wow. What a game. Oklahoma was trying to make a comeback, but it was already too late. Tennessee wins 25-15. SEC game. Oklahoma's debut to the SEC and got a loss. There's many more losses to come from there, Oklahoma. You tested the waters of the SEC, and now you're getting it. This ain't the Big 12. It's a wake-up call for Oklahoma. For Tennessee, yeah, they're 4-0. Yeah, they're ranked number 6. I don't have them ranked number 6, and I'll give you my top 25 on second down. They're overrated right now. They truly are. Don't give props that they won, but there's still a long season for them. USC fell short against Michigan. They had the chance. I mean, they took over the lead when they had the opportunity, but Michigan took it back towards the very end, and they won 27-24. This is a big win for Michigan, a very big win, especially when you got that one loss from Texas. And then Utah and Oklahoma State, another exciting game. Oklahoma State trying to catch up with 16 points in the fourth quarter. Too little, too late. But Utah's doing it without Cam Rising. Once again, Cam Rising's injured. There's no timetable. There's nothing that is stating that he'll be back. But we could be surprised if he does come back this weekend. But Utah's 4-0, 1-0 in the Big 12 on their debut. More to come. And you got to watch out with that defense. They're proving that defense wins championships. Let's see if that continue. On the other side, wow, everyone. The AP, baby. The AP poll. Jump on the bandwagon. Got Northern Illinois in the top 25. All because they defeated Notre Dame. Turn around, and they lose to Buffalo. 23-20 in overtime. That's it. That's a wrap, Northern Illinois. Good job. See you later. Not making it back to the top 25. James Madison, 3-0. But what do you know? Against North Carolina, the ACC, the Sun Belt Conference doing this, the final score was 70-50. That's 120 points in this game. 70-50. Who's on the hot seat now? North Carolina? Mark Brown? Are you serious? Giving up 70 points in a 4-quarter game. That's not pretty, man. That's not pretty. There was no defense whatsoever. And either of these two teams, it was pathetic. Okay. Those of you that went over in the game, you went extremely over. Congratulations. Navy over Memphis, 56-44. And I admit, I thought Memphis was going to take the American Conference, but the way they played, I mean, listen, they gave up 28 points in the first half. That hasn't been done this season. Navy's taking charge, man. And then to be able to score 21 points in the fourth quarter, and this is a Navy team that was dedicated in the run game. They changed their dynamics with their new head coach. 56-44, Navy undefeated. And then the Army is undefeated too. And they're both in the same conference. Army is no longer independent. This is their first year in the conference. And they went ahead and defeated Rice 37-14. Imagine both these teams finished undefeated before their rivalry game. On their 12th game, both teams 11-0. Can you imagine the Army-Navy game that I believe is going to be in Pennsylvania? Wow. Absolutely wow. Could it be in Philadelphia? I don't know. I got to look that one up. I know they originally had one game, one place, and then they're moving to another. But I'm going to tell you right now, Army and Navy are outshining that conference. Now, I don't want to jinx it. I hope they don't jinx it this weekend and then all of a sudden they get the L, because then all the hype that I'm doing for Army and Navy goes to waste. But they're doing a fantastic job. And this is a schedule. Navy versus Air Force, October 5th. Air Force at Army, November 2nd. And then December 14th, the last game of the regular season before we start the bowl games, is Navy versus Army. Whoever wins 3 games gets the Commander-in-Chief trophy. And right now, Army has it. They've won back-to-back years, and they're seeking for the 3rd. And it's not looking good for Air Force because they're looking dysfunctional right now. So it just looks like the upper hand, and Navy has more wins than Army. But we'll see how everything develops come on their 12th game. And that's a couple of weeks after Thanksgiving. Let's go ahead and move on to second down. This is my top 25, and I'll zoom in real quick to let y'all know. And here's some questions for you. Who is number 1? Is it Georgia or Texas? And is Tennessee overrated? Is Illinois worthy in the top 25? Is Kansas State and BYU? There's some questions there. And why Pittsburgh is not rated? And is Louisville overrated? There's a lot of unknowns here, okay? And why is no one talking about Army and Navy except for myself? There's no pride in our armed forces people, our future veterans. Come on. My top 25, and I'll announce my top 10. I have Texas, Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama, Utah, Oregon, Penn State, Ole Miss, Mizzou, Tennessee. And if I look across, look, the AP and the coaches poll, they have a lot of differences. And this is the reason why come in November, we have a college football committee, because stuff like this, okay? Ohio State has not been battle tested. They haven't played anybody, but everybody else has. I'm surprised, but because of their status, because of so much valuable players that they have, that talent, people coming back to play one more season, this is why they're still at number 3. But make no mistake, because the competition is coming soon in the Big Ten. Okay, now I'm scratching my head. Pittsburgh is 4-0. Why is nobody talking about Pittsburgh? Louisville's 3-0. Okay, ranked 23, but the ACC hasn't been pretty. None whatsoever. Clemson learned their lesson with the loss against Georgia, and they're blowing their opponents out. I'm scratching my head. What's going on here in the top 25? I feel like everything's being dysfunctional. I mean, the coaches poll came out at 12 o'clock Sunday. My rankings came out 8 o'clock in the morning Sunday. And then all of a sudden now the AP is waiting until 2 o'clock in the afternoon to make their announcements. I mean, are they lost? Are they trying to copycat? What's going on here? I don't get it. I really don't get it. ACC, you got to be careful, because last year The last few years, they haven't been the same. And when Clemson was the elite school, it was just only Clemson. Florida State could have been the next team, and you know how well they're playing. Straight up garbage. They can't even use the transfer portal, and they got DJ Uiagalelei, who was a former quarterback of Clemson, went to Oregon State, transferred back to Florida State, thinking he was going to do something, and his value of going to the NFL has decreased. It's terrible, terrible, terrible. This is the playoff picture right now looking in. My prediction. Okay. Texas, Miami, Utah, and Ohio State being the top 4. Okay. I made a mistake. Georgia should not be in number 5 because, again, it is the 5th conference. The G5 is going into number 5. So technically, Georgia should be at number 6. And technically, whoever's at number 10, Notre Dame, is pretty much out. Okay. They're out. And the way they're playing, they might just eliminate themselves. They might just get at least 3 or 4 losses this season to where they're playing. If you lose to Northern Illinois, you might as well stack up more losses. 3rd down. It's time for some game. It's time for some picks. And I'm going to start off with Thursday's game. Army versus Temple and Navy versus UAB. And this is why I'm telling you, there better not be an L in this game. It is a conference games, and Army and Navy should come out victorious. Thursday, Army against Temple at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Saturday at noon will be Navy versus UAB. Both teams are on the road. I'm telling you right now, take Army and take Navy to win. Represent our country, shall we? Yes, let's do this. More games. Oklahoma State versus Kansas State. Oh, man, this is going to be a fantastic. Alan Bowman, the quarterback, was benched. And Utah's game in the against the Cowboys, the defense could not stop the run. Okay, that's their weakness. Kansas State, they lost to BYU, but they lost to them bad. Right? They couldn't score a touchdown. They couldn't move the ball. And they couldn't get into the red zone. And if you can't get into the red zone, I'm sorry, man. Things are not going to look pretty for you. And Oklahoma State, they have a kind of a decent defense. They might flirt in the red zone, but if you can't score, you can't make that happen. What do you have left? Okay. Oklahoma State should get their first victory in the Big 12 in this season to go 1-1. And Kansas State should fall out of the top 25. And they sure did fall out of my top 25. Take Oklahoma State Cowboys to win this game. Move on to Louisville versus Notre Dame. Riley Leonard, who is the Notre Dame quarterback, played in Duke last year. And when he played against Louisville, the Louisville defense got him locked down. Okay? Riley Leonard could not perform right. His quarterback rating, if there was a thing called negative ratings, he would have been in it. He couldn't do anything. Got sacked so many times. Listen, Louisville's defense are going to put pressure on Riley Leonard. And yes, Notre Dame got more talent. Okay? They probably have more talent than Duke. Yeah, I got it. However, the quarterback. I'm taking Louisville for the win. You might as well book Louisville, and that will give them a boost because it is 2 top 25 teams. Louisville will get a boost in my book, so I'm booking it right now. I'm taking Louisville. Colorado versus UCF. Colorado's head coach Deion Sanders versus Gus Malzahn for the UCF. I'm taking the most experienced coach in this game. And being that this game is going to be in Central Florida, home field advantage, both these teams got a 1-0 record in the Big 12. I'm taking UCF. Okay. Colorado lost to Nebraska 28-10. UCF has a lot of similarities to Nebraska, and I wouldn't be surprised if they held them less than 10 points. Take UCF in this game all the way. And besides, I have UCF ranked 26 on top of Colorado. So I'm backing up my own rankings here. Ohio State versus Michigan State. Listen, I am trying to find ways to persuade people about how this game could be a great game. Okay. But it's hard. It's hard because the fact that when Michigan State plays Ohio State, Michigan State, they play their A game all the time, but then they just choke like they did against Boston College. They just choked. Okay. Ohio State hasn't been challenged. They played who? Akron. They played Western Michigan. They played Marshall. Okay. Now they're playing their Big Ten conference games. This is like every year is the same thing for Ohio State. And yet the fans are like, this is Ohio State's biggest year, but they've never been battle tested. And then they get battle tested at the end of the year when they get eliminated. And then you're left scratching your head as to why. Well, that's why. Okay. They're not battle testing at the beginning of the season. And yet, just because they take care of their conference, that doesn't mean anything. Matter of fact, I respect more in Michigan because they play Texas. Why can't Ohio State play Texas? Just saying. I don't know. However, here's some notes. Ohio State has won 8 straight games against Michigan State. In 2015, Michigan State was ranked number 9 and upset Ohio State at number 3. They won 17-14 in the last second to win in a field goal. Michigan State last won at home November 6, 1999. And did you know that in 1987, Michigan State snapped Ohio State's 8-game winning streak? They currently have an 8-game winning streak right now. So does this mean that Michigan State is going to upset Ohio State? Nah. They're going to make it 9. And I'm taking Ohio State to win. And besides, Ohio State has won 37 games to 15 games against Michigan State. Might as well make it 38. Stanford versus Clemson. Clemson has been on fire ever since they lost to Georgia, proving everybody that you don't need a transfer portal to win games. They played once, Clemson and Stanford, and that was December 27th, 1986. Clemson won 27-21 in the Gator Bowl. Clemson wins in a huge margin. Washington versus Rutgers. This is Rutgers' first game in the Big Ten. Washington coming out victorious. They're 1-0. But if you look at the history, Washington is 2-0. And since 2021, Rutgers started the season 3-0 and lost the 4th game. There's just something wrong with week 4. Almost replica to the NFL with like the Cincinnati Bengals that they don't do well in week 2. Here, Rutgers don't do well in week 4 for some reason. Their 4th game. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. However, this is Greg Schiano, and he's going to have these people prepared. His boys are going to be prepared. Okay. And yet Washington's going to have Will Rogers, who is a transfer from Mississippi State. He's been struggling in the 7.5 games. So I'm taking Rutgers in an upset to defeat Washington. Moving on to Illinois versus Penn State. I'm liking Illinois, man. I am sold on what's going on here. I really am. I like the fire. I love the fight. Illinois played from start to finish all the way. Something that I haven't seen from Penn State. Penn State has not been challenged. I've always said that they're the 3rd best team in the Big Ten behind Ohio State and Michigan. Now that there's more teams involved and the development of Illinois, I'm actually taking the plus 18 points with Illinois. Okay. Regardless if Penn State wins or not, I believe this is going to be a close game. It should be narrowed down to at least less than a touchdown. And that's why I'm taking Illinois plus 18. And who knows? Illinois is a high potential of winning this game, upsetting Penn State and lowering the white towels over there. Georgia versus Alabama is the game of the week. Both teams had a bye week and they're coming out fresh. Carson Beck and Jalen Milroe, both future NFL prospects. If you look at the history since 2012, I mean, 6 playoff games. And since 2012, and yes, I am a big Georgia Bulldog fan, they've only won one game. And that was the College Football National Championship in 2022 when finally Georgia snapped. For so many years not winning it, they did it that year. That was the start of the back-to-back titles. They missed out on the playoffs last year. I'm taking Georgia for the win. And the spread is 2.5. It's almost like a pick 'em game. And this game is going to be in Alabama. And the difference is Nick Saban's not going to be there. He is not the head coach. So is that good or bad for Georgia? Is that good or bad for Kirby Smart? And if I was Georgia, I got a bad taste in my mouth after you guys won 13-12. Are you serious? That's like playing extra innings in baseball. 13-12 against Kentucky. If I was Kirby Smart, I would treat that like it was a big L and come back strong and just dominate against Alabama. And besides, losing in the SEC championship last year against Jalen Milroe, 27-24 for his last heroic move. Yeah, come on, guys. Take that speed that y'all do it in the highways and put it in the field and make that happen. It is 4th down and it's the final whistle. Great games. Great games going on here in college football. But I have to tell you, AP and Coaches Pose, there's a reason why your rankings don't mean anything. It doesn't. That's why I created my own top 25. Because I don't believe in yours. And neither do the fans. Yeah, it's a great thing to talk about, but you're not a college football committee. And people see things a little bit different. You can't decide whether or not Georgia's number one or Texas. You always want to keep Ohio State on the very top. It is what it is. We get the same 4 or 5 teams every time, every year. Things are about to be different. And it's going to be different in the next couple of weeks. And who knows who's going to be the number one team. But I'll tell you this. You got to stay focused on these games. And these games is not just a powerhouse. You got to look at the other schools too. They're involved. Okay? You got to love these games. You got to love it. But let's be fair, man. Just because a team got lucky against a powerhouse team doesn't mean that they deserve to be in the top 25. Let's call common sense. Northern Illinois beat Notre Dame, and then they fall down. We can't do that. Let's be fair. There are other schools that are 4-0. They're not in the top 25. Give them the credit. Give to what is due. Let's talk about Pittsburgh and the ACC. They deserve it. Boston College, they deserve it. They only got one loss. They deserve it. Washington State, they deserve to be in the top 25. They're 4-0. Why are they not being mentioned? It's left me scratching my head. Just because they're not an official conference, whatever, there's only 2 teams, doesn't mean that they don't deserve it. It's like Notre Dame. They're independent. You got them ranked. Should Washington State be higher than them? Why not? Let's be fair to how we judge these schools and give them for the benefit of doubt. Let's talk about them. And then when they lose, they'll just go away. That's it. Let's just be fair to the game because these kids, and you're right, there are still kids still playing the game that we love, and they're working their asses off to be to the top. Let's just be fair. Thank you. Thank you for watching the All 4 Downs podcast. I'll be back next week. Gotta love some football. Oh, yeah. This is All 4 Downs podcast. Thank you. Have fun.